Welcome everybody. Welcome to Kendo Tips. My name is Jose. Welcome to the stream. I'm a Yondang in Kendo, and what we're doing here is just talking about Kendo, having a good time, and hopefully learning something every time we watch something here. So today it's a little bit of a weird stream for me because I had some internal problems, so I couldn't post my stream early on yesterday. So I had to do it pretty much at a moment where I knew I was going to have internet today here, wire internet, so that way I know I have good connection. And so yeah, I'm not expecting to have a lot of people today because of that. It was a little bit off, and I know YouTube takes a little while to send the notifications, so yeah. But I'm staying here, like I'm coming in just to make sure I stay consistent, working on making sure that we keep improving. Also, next week for the next 2 weeks, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to stream because I am taking a trip up to Greece and I will not be here. So I wanted to do something before I left just to make sure that I got something out. I keep consistent with this, and just to answer any questions you may have and anything I can do to help out, I'm here. Steven, welcome to the chat. Thank you very much for passing by. It's going well. I kind of messed up my shoulder this week a little bit, but I'm fine. I'm good. I actually had practice yesterday and today we did a lot of suburi and kirikaeshi, so that didn't make it worse. So that's good. Means that I guess it's getting better. How are you doing? How are practices over there in California? And yeah, how was your week? How was your Kendo week as well? I make sure that the music is good. Guys, let me know if the music is too loud. I try to keep the same level in my headphones, so that way I know more or less, but I think you might hear it a little bit different. So let me tell you a little bit about what I wanted to do today. Again, because I wasn't really expecting to have too many people. I kind of... it's not that I wasn't expecting to have too many people. I also didn't have time because I didn't have internet to check out for like the videos that I wanted to put in for today. So I thought that today I kind of wanted to look over kata and kind of talk a little bit of how kata applies into keiko, right? And I also wanted to address a little bit of a question on Tenouchi that was put up on the Discord. And by the way, if you're tuning in, if you haven't already, here's the link for the Discord. You can also go to the description box below and you can join Discord there. I will answer questions there. If you need to message me, if you want to just talk to a bunch of people that are into Kendo, please pass by to the channel, to the chat, and say hello and get a conversation going. But anyways, I am getting ready for my trip. I have to remember to do, I think it's called the PLA form, because in Greece you can go in with the form if you're vaccinated or you provide proof that of the PCR. So you can go in that way. And I need to make sure I register all that. I signed everything up. Steven, practice for you has been hard to get to. Because of work. Okay, and you need to practice some more kata. So, you need to practice kata because you need to test, or you need to practice kata because you need to practice kata? Why you say that? Why you bring kata up in the sense that you need to do more kata? Tell me. I'm excited for my trip. I think it's going to be fun. I'm going to try to get as many practices as possible within the dojos that are going to be accessible to me. So I'm excited for that. I'm a little bit worried about shiai because the shinais that I have are, pretty old in the sense that for a year I didn't have a need to get new shinais. And I think the shinais that I have been there for a while, so I'm afraid they may be a little bit dry. So I'm concerned that if my shinais start breaking more than I wanted to during my trip. Because I'm thinking of taking maybe 3, tops 4 shinais. But I also have to consider weight because of I want to take my Boken as well, and the Kodachi. So I need to I need to keep all those things in mind. Plus, of course, clothing for 2 weeks, which that also waits. Um, Thankfully, I don't have to like take a suit or anything like that. Like, there's not gonna be like any formal events that I know of, and if they are, that would suck for me. So yeah, Steven. So you have testing in November. You going for Sandan, I think, right? If I remember correctly, that's cool. And so there's an event going down in Mexico that is the 27th. When is your testing? Oh, I want to see. I've been wanting to go to California, practice with Rodriguez Sensei as well, and you as well. So, um, that's something that I kind of been considering, but I think my travel schedule is kind of pretty much set for the year. So maybe it will be next year. Do your best, man. Do your best for your sound and testing. I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm excited to practice with you, because I saw some of your videos. I think you're doing pretty good, and I think one of the things that you have an advantage over people here, for example, in Florida, is that you have other people around you that do really good kendo. A lot more people to choose from that do good kendo, so you can copy different things that you like. So that's always exciting. I think for us here, we have to make a little bit more of an effort to seek out whether it's videos to watch kendo that we like, and like seek out instruction from other senseis and friends. So yeah, I think that's one of the things I like about practicing in California, because there's so many more people that you can practice with, different kendos you can experience, and overall the good time. Um, yeah. So are they doing the testing with the Kodansha testing? Are they doing that together? Do you know? That'll be interesting. I was looking over the instructions for the test, and if it wasn't because I don't know if I said this in the last stream, but I signed up for the test in Greece, and then after I signed up first to the test, about a week and a half before I bought my ticket. I bought my ticket, and 2 days later, I got the email that there's going to be Kodansha testing in California. I did the math, and the price is kind of similar. I think because there was a sale on Delta, and I paid with miles, but I could have paid with miles for California as well. I ended up paying like $400 something for my ticket there, where I paid that much before to go to California. Um, oh, cool. So the testing, the Kodansha testing, and I'm guessing they're probably gonna do testing up to Yondan. Is going to be about a week apart. Okay, cool. So it's not the same event. Yeah, I was gonna say, because it's going to be. I know there's going to be a lot of people already trying out for Golden and above. So I was like, that's gonna be hectic. That's going to be crazy. Um, yeah, that would be way too many people in one place. Also, like, because of the restrictions, they said like limited ki. Also have to wear a face mask, and you have to have the protector inside of your men. And they said any kind, so I'm guessing it's okay to do like one side, like the one that's covering your mouth, not necessarily your eyes as well. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited to see that US is having more events. Uh, I'm jealous that in Europe there's doing a lot of events, like a lot of tournaments, testing, seminars, and so on. So it's kind of where it's at right now. Um, so yeah, I'm excited to be there, because I know a lot of people there are having a lot more practice that we have been having it here. So they're kind of, I think, going back to practice after the Corona break, I think the biggest part first is kind of like taking off the rust of your body. Well, actually, the first part is to kind of get into the mental attitude that it's okay to come in at whatever level you are, because I feel that a lot of people that I know of that I talk to, they either hesitate on going back to Kendo or stop coming back to Kendo altogether because they say that like, oh, I don't feel in shape, I lost like But I think a lot of us kind of like went into the same level. So going into that mental battle within yourself that I'm not gonna go back because I'm not in the best shape, I'm not in the shape that I was before. It's like, I think we have to get over that. I kind of started feeling that myself at some point during the Corona break. And I said, okay, you know what? Let me start doing something. So I kind of made myself a schedule of suburi and running. So that way I was like, okay, at least I can feel that I'm doing something. I'm not losing my physical conditioning. I'm thinking about technique. I'm thinking about all this stuff. And overall, I think what I ended up lacking when I came back to the dojo was the distance on how far or how close I could be from my opponent. I felt like when I first started coming back to the dojo, I was a little bit too close or a lot close. So I ended up getting like seeing myself and pulling back, and hopefully now I'm doing way better with that. I think I am doing way better with that. So distance was the biggest challenge for me to, not the biggest challenge, but like the biggest problems that I had coming back to the dojo. The physical part, yeah, it sucked. It sucked being with the mask, but at the end of the day, I have fun doing kendo, so I really didn't mind that much having to use the mask. That's that. Okay, I wanted to address a comment from the Discord that had to do with Tenouchi, so that's why I had this guy right next to me here, ready to go. Shen, he was saying that his sensei was telling him that you have to use your finger, tighten up your fingers to do Tenouchi, but also you have to use your wrist. So I wish he was here so he could explain a little bit more. I saw the message yesterday, I believe, and I think I replied today. So it's my internet's been crappy, so sorry for that. But I'm guessing that because he was having trouble saying that if you tighten up your fingers, then your wrist kind of becomes stiff, right? And depends, I think, how you do it. Because if you tighten up the top fingers, you end up making a fist. So yeah, even though you can move it, it's a lot stiff, right? But if you tighten up the bottom two fingers, and if you time it right, as the sword coming down, it pivots, right? Like on with the wrist, and then the fingers kind of like help it go faster, bring the tip faster forward. One thing that I always try to make sure I keep in mind or try to give this visual is that you want the sword to accelerate all the way to the end, and at the end stop sharply, right? And you do that with the right hand. I think that's the Tenouchi for the right hand. And for me, I think the right hand at the end of the motion catches the sword, right? You don't want to lock the elbow, and you don't want to like change the position of your shoulder either. You want to have it in a neutral position forward, but also you don't want to add down power. You want to catch the sword at the end, and the sword should like stop sharply, right? With the left hand, you add the power, and from here you start throwing the sword forward. You use your wrist and a combination of your wrist and your fingers, and the sword all the way to the end accelerates. So first it accelerates with my arms, then the release of the energy comes from the wrist and the fingers at the very end for the left hand, pulling forward and then catching with the right hand. So that's how I see Tenouchi. That's how I was explained Tenouchi and some of the function of Tenouchi. So if you guys have a different one, please let me know. Please share that, because it's very, I think it's something that is a lot of little details but makes such a big difference. Leo, welcome to the stream. Thank you very much for passing by. Appreciate you being here. Yeah, I don't mind you dropping in. So I I think that the biggest challenge we have with Tenouchi is that people want to add power to the sword and they end up pushing down with either their shoulder or like bringing down the sword with the right hand. And ideally what you want is just like the right hand just stops it and the power gets transferred by the fact that this hand kind of like becomes static and the left hand is the one that transfer the power down. A rich man, welcome to the stream. Welcome. Thank you very much for passing by, guys. If you don't mind, please hit the like button so that way this gets pushed out to more people. I started without sending any warnings to anybody because I didn't know if I was gonna be able to stream today. So I really appreciate it. We can push this out there. So Leo, you said it's like the Kendo gods were like, you're working Tenouchi. Here, have Kendo tips video. Yeah, I'm used to getting shoulder issues. So yeah, I think one of the biggest things it's that you like a lot of people tend to want to add power by bringing the sword down, and I think that what that does, like the tendency is to throw the shoulder out, and that I think that pulls it out of its natural position, and then that's how you start getting the injuries. Also by lifting the shoulder, by lifting the sword, like with your elbows out, like here should be neutral, right? Like here should be good, but like when people start doing this, like I feel like that puts a lot of strain, especially when you do a lot of suburi or you use the suburi to like the heavy shinai. George, welcome. Thank you for passing by. Man, that's awesome. You guys had examinations there. Oh man, I didn't know it was this weekend. And there's another one in Virginia, right? Coming up, I think next month. I wanted to go to pass by and say hi to the people, but how was it? Any restrictions? Any specific restrictions that they were having for the event? Let us know, man. Thank you. Oh, Leo, so you wanted to ask George about the examination. Cool. And the flaring elbow, you sound like the flaring elbow, and throwing out your right shoulder gets you. Okay, so yeah, you want to make sure that you keep everything forward. A lot of times, as a matter of fact, I was talking today at the dojo about this, that every technique you want to try to keep your tip forward, because even, for example, like if you're going to receive the sword, right? If you receive it forward with your tip, you have less motion to do to get contact of the sword. But if you bring up if you block it like this, you end up having more distance to cover, and at the same time, there's nothing that you can do now with the sword, right? Like you're pretty much on a backwards position. Richmond, so best Kendo role models to try to imitate as a beginner. Okay, so as a beginner, I'm going to say your sensei or the people that you have around you that are higher grade, that are doing good. That's the basics. But I'm going to say for me specifically, and I'm not necessarily saying that this is a beginner. I think Kunitomo's kamae and the way he moves in the court, it's a very good example, because I feel his kendo is pretty straightforward, and he does very, very intense kendo as well. So I'll show a little picture. I'll show a picture or a little video of him in a second. So you guys know Kunitomo is my favorite kenshi right now. George, you're saying it was really good and as usual, and for the COVID, well, mask required and temperature checks. Cool. So George is saying what I see also is the height on the left hand when hitting men. What do you mean what you see? So for me, and that's actually a very good point, right? Because a lot of people kind of have trouble with this, and I know I struggle with this at the beginning, when hitting men. To me, it kind of didn't seem, it didn't seem, it didn't seem logical that I'm extending both arms, but one is supposed to be closer to my body than the other one, right? Because if I'm standing both arms, it should be at the same here. But it's a play on wrist and also the angle of the hand. The left arm, and I like how Griva Sensei says it because it's very simple. The left arm should end up by your solar plexus, where the right arm should be parallel to the floor, should be shoulder level, right? So there's a little bit of a, like, right? It's not this much. It's not like I'm having my hand down here, right? Another thing, you don't want to bend your elbow either. You want to keep it out, out in the, towards your opponent. But ideally, you want to make sure that you have a good stretch on your arms, and you make sure that you get also a good stretch, a good reach with the tip of your shinai. Because if not, then you're hitting up, and then you end up hitting with this part on the mengane of your partner, and that's also not what you're looking for, right? Hope it makes sense. Look at how much we have, extended based on a quick little comment at the Discord. So Richmond, let me look up real quick. Yeah, George. Both a lot of beginners try to keep both arms at the same height, and it's interesting, right? Because they end up doing this. They end up like having a weird, like a pull on this one. It's just, yeah. You want to have both arms extended. How that makes sense. Let me see. Another thing that I'm going to say, Richmond, as a beginner, I would say try to find more videos too, not necessarily of competitions, but jigeiko, right? I feel that in competition, a lot of times the need to get a point kind of makes us do different type of movements that are not necessarily beautiful, or they're not necessarily like what you're trying to develop in your kendo. So when you practice that way at the dojo, then it kind of gets a little bit messy. So yeah, you want to try to find what people do when they're trying to improve their kendo, trying to do their best kendo, and not necessarily just desperately trying to get a nippon. Not to say you shouldn't watch tournaments either, right? But okay, so how about this, guys? Let's watch a quick Kunitomo video. Let me just open up the player real quick. So it's the whole thing with invitations from Florida. It's kind of weird. People in my dojo, I feel that right now they're taking the time to get back into kendo, develop and so on. I personally wanted to go, but the one person that I want him to test right now, I mean, he's still getting ready. Like, he hasn't really traveled yet. Like, he's brand new. He's a beginner. So I think we're building it up. We're building it up. Hopefully for the next one, we'll be ready to do that. I won't be able to go to the one in Virginia because I don't think I will be here, and I've been doing a lot of travel and stuff like that I can't. So yeah. But I'll go visit. Because I think for me, at least, when you go with a group of people, it's end up being more expensive that like that last time that we met up over there, because we don't really care like what we eat. It's a little bit different. Like, when we can stay at the spa, we can say like all this other stuff, and it's not necessarily so demanding when you have other people, right? You have to get like reservations, hotels and stuff, and I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, hold on, guys. I'm trying to play a video so we can watch. Okay. You guys cannot see this, can you? Right here. Okay. Now we're cooking. Let me just make sure that you guys can see all this. Okay, and I will pause the music. Actually, I should just... Okay, and where's the sound for this? Please let me know if you can hear the... Okay, so Kunitomo's on the left. And this angle right now, okay, now they're getting a better angle for us. Remember, this is before the COVID rules. So again, Kunitomo is red. So, points to take, Richmond, for a beginner to try to bring into your kendo. The sense of being able to be in kamae and move anywhere at any time. It's very important. Not having to adjust yourself if you have to move from any position to another. Number two is that when you're attacking, where you're executing a waza, you want to come in and drop and throw your energy, do 100%. Not be lazy with the follow through. Make sure that you go and throw all your weight, all your body into it. Another point is just realize, not be shy with the kiai. I do have to say this. Now with the rules that you have to separate and like go back to kamae for Isokuito no kamae, it's a little bit more interesting to watch. Right now, this, like when they're like coming in too close so long and spending so much time in there, I understand what they're doing, right? They're trying to get an opening when they're there to go back with the hikiwasa, right? And avoid allowing the other person to control the fight. But it becomes more interesting when they're fighting from a little bit further distance than just in Subaseriai. I think, my opinion. And Richmond is another thing. This is another reason why I say you want to watch Keiko, because in shiai, a lot of times that coming in close is part of what they're trying to do, right? And that's not necessarily something you will do in Keiko. Shin, welcome to the stream. I actually was talking to about you earlier about that question you asked on the Tenouchi. Maybe you can rephrase it and I can go over it more. Wow. Great, great, great decote. Wow. Okay, so let's rewatch real quick. Two spots. One was right about here when there's that. Hold on. Very, very close. I think it's very close for degote and also for the men. Um, but there wasn't really an agreement from the judges to get the point. So let's just see what happened. It's really hard angle to see it, but you can see that White is putting pressure. Obviously, Kunitamo he's in the corner, so he obviously doesn't want to keep going backwards. So he has to do something, and he missed the man completely, and the kote was a little bit too deep, and that was it. Shen, I'll be right there with that question. Let me just make sure that we watch this last part right here. What happened with the degote? Okay, so they're in a very dangerous zone, both of them, right? And if you realize here, Kunitomo is not pulling back. He kind of it's anchoring his left foot to start putting that pressure forward. And as soon as he puts that pressure forward, this is kind of like one of the parts with like sen, no sen, go no sen, that is a little bit like gray areas, because you could say that Kunitomo started it and then he reacted. You can say he anticipated his motion, or they're both anticipating each other. They're both coming in. So at this point, they're both making the decision to come in forward. And Kunitomo went and took over for that kote and was able to get there before the men did. So again, I really like his kendo. I am excited to see him this year in the All Japan, because now that there's going to be more of that fight from Isakuito, I feel that that's really also where he shines. He doesn't do too much of that. I'm coming in to just come into a shiai, right? So I'm excited. I'm excited to see that. Okay, Shen, your question. Okay, you were told to have to squeeze the shinai right on the moment of contact and then relax the squeeze right after. In the same time, you were told that your wrists have to be relaxed at all times. Oh wait, because Richmond had a question first. Why do we practice shuffle steps so much when launch step seems to be the most important step in combat? Okay, so let me make sure that I'm on the same page. So you're asking, why do we practice the okuriashi, where like right foot stays in the front and the left foot comes in quick, versus the launch and the fumikomi and fumikiri to do the attack, right? So okay, Steven started answering that question. That shuffling footwork has better control and you will use it more. Totally. You will definitely use it way more. You only do that launch at the moment of the attack. And if you break it down, if you actually break down the motions and the muscles and everything, it is the same footwork. One is just longer than the other. So in okuriashi, where you're calling shuffling footwork, you push with the left and you pull with the right. With the leap, you're pushing with the left and then you keep pushing with the left. When the right foot lands, it's pulling you forward. So it is the same footwork, just with a different distance, right? Like it's the same, maybe it's not the same exact muscles that you're using, but it's the same function and application. So the way you move is by pushing and pulling. And by practicing the small one, you start also learning the bigger one. We do practice the bigger one, and I personally like to do the practice of that footwork separate before start raising the sword and then put it together, because it gets a little bit more complicated when people start raising the sword. But overall, what Steven said, it's right on point, because you use the shuffling footwork, or you use the kuriashi, or this type of footwork to come in close, to get the distance, and then to launch. And depending on the distance where the opponent is or will be at the moment of your strike, your launch can be farther, or it could even be in place. So it's a little bit, you don't want to also learn to put yourself into one launch where your launch should be adjustable depending on where the opponent is or is going to be at the moment of your strike. Richmond, with no leaning forward, correct. You want to avoid leaning forward. And if you look at it, let's see if we see, there was a moment there where, like, if you see they're moving a lot, right? With the kuriashi, the left foot is always in the back. Okay, right there, you have the launch there. So if you see Kunitomo's feet, so he comes in, we can't really see it because of the camera angle, but I'm guessing that he anchored his left foot, or he braced his left foot to start pushing forward. He pushed forward, he tries to hit the waza, he hits the fumikomi, the left foot comes immediately, and then guess what? We need this footwork to keep the momentum going, to get a good sanshin, a good follow through on the technique. Because if you don't, then what's going to end up happening is that you will stop and cut your momentum. And that's not necessarily favorable for the judges, also for what we're looking for doing in Kendo. And when you do that, you're able to kind of stay there. And if you miss, another reason why I say shuffling footwork, because that's how you call it. I'm gonna call it okuriashi as well. But the good reason to practice this is because if you miss that waza, for example here, where he missed that waza, he's able to recover, and he could even attack again if he saw an opening, right? Where if you're used to doing long motions, the recovery time for your feet is going to be longer, so you won't be able to come up again with another technique. Hope that makes sense. Okay, Shane, I promise you I'm not ignoring your question, because I actually talked about it earlier, and I want to talk about it today again. I mean, when you're here again, just to make sure that I get the good spectrum of everything that you're asking. So, again, you are talking right now at the moment of impact. I was actually talking earlier about the motion, but at the moment of impact, what ends up happening is that your wrist have to be relaxed. The way I see it is kind of like, like there's not really muscles here, right? You have to make sure that they are they're malleable, right? Like they can move. So at the moment of impact, this is how I do it. Please, if your sensei does it differently, do not follow me, follow what your sensei says. But at the moment of impact, my wrists stretches, right, I'm using my fingers on my left hand to bring the sword with a little bit more speed forward to hit. The right one, it's stopping the shiai by squeezing the fingers right at the moment of impact. What this does is it doesn't allow the shiai to kind of like keep going back, keep going down, right? It gives a sharp stop where I want it. And right after that, I relax my fingers so there will be a bounce of the sword. And I relax my wrist so therefore the shinai doesn't stick to my opponent and you get this type of hit into the opponent, right? It's more of like, let me just get a smaller. Ha. You get a little bit of this, right? Like it hits, and because obviously it's not cutting into the person, you will get a bounce, right? So you're not fighting the bounce by keeping your wrist and your arms pulling down, pushing down. You just allow it to go. And if you need to go again, you can, right? Like you can do pop, 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 as many times as you want. So kotemen, right? Like kotemen. And that's how I practice my, like, that moment of the Tenouchi. You squeeze, but you relax and you are ready for the next one. The whole purpose of this is to be ready for the next technique. Every time we take a step, every time we take a cut, you should be able to, from that exact position, go again for another waza without having to adjust yourself. That's what I believe. You're saying, okay, your right hand is wrong. Instead of stopping it, your right hand is pushing it forward instead. Yeah. So, I mean, again, if your sensei says that that's how it should be, I can't say anything against that. But what you don't want is you don't want this to happen. Right hand, right? You don't want this to happen because then this will stiffen you up, and then that means that to do the next waza, you have to do this, right? Because if you're gonna do man, it is going to be this. But my man, for example, if I did a man here, my next man is going to be right here. It's my left arm pushing, and then the fingers pop, 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 pop. You see this? Pop, pop. It's I'm trying to open. Like I have this finger like here, so you can probably see more, but I just don't want to. I don't want to like confuse people. I don't want you to do kendo like this. But ideally, you want to squeeze the sword's coming down, sword's coming down. Like, okay, sword's coming down, and here, pop, pop. And then what's going to happen is that there's going to be a stretch in your wrist, and then the sword's going to bounce, but your wrist and your hands are not going to fight it, and also you're not going to pull back with your arm. You're going to keep it there, and it's going to just be there. So it's not this, it's not this, it's this. Right? So I could do it with one hand too, right? But obviously I can do more strength and more flexibility, more speed with both. George, so you're saying if you're pushing with the right, then you will have to switch forces for the second strike, and most probably you'll be pulling with the right. Correct. And also, your sword is going to go all over the place. It's like you can, if you miss a little bit of it, your sword is going to like stick and slide, or you're just not gonna hit on the right spot. It's going to hit an awkward angle. Just overall, not a good look. Not good looks. Yeah, you could also make it. Good point too, George. Like when you do that, if you pull it, you can pull it up. A lot of times people pull it up to the side, so you make an opening. Also, if you pull it up, look what happens. This becomes available, right? A lot more than if it's like here, right? Pop, pop. So, pop, pop. Make sense? I hope I'm not making stuff up. I'm trying to share what I have learned, not what I made up. I didn't make this up. I bet. I promise. So you're saying that you don't use your right elbow to push, only from your wrist up that you're pushing. Okay, so yeah, again, but the right arm, the way I was told is that, or I like this analogy that the left arm is the power and the right arm is the steering, right? So whenever I'm doing suburi, for example, I'm bringing both my arms up, right? I'm literally doing this. But if anything, my right arm is going along for the ride. It's not the one pushing forward. Then when I'm coming down, same thing. It's going along for the ride, but it's not pushing down. And then at the end, it just stops it there. And this arm is the one that transfers the energy into the tip of the shiai. That's how I do it. Hopefully that's useful for you guys. I'm excited, guys. I'm excited for this type of questions. I kind of want to do more of this through. I kind of want this to be the goal of the streams, where we discuss this type of things, and we bring up ourselves into improving our kendo. Again, I don't want to go against anybody's sensei. If your sensei does it differently, please listen to your sensei. And it's we're trying to make kendo better. It's not about like who's right or wrong. So I'm still in a journey of discovery and self-discovery. So if you have different points, please bring them up, because I'll give it a lot of thought. I'll try it out myself at the dojo and then tell you my feedback, my experience with it. Period. So your sensei says the same thing too. Cool. Awesome. And Richmond, you said you think of a lever, more leverage power will come from the lower hand. Yes, and it's interesting because when I was in Mexico, Griva Sensei corrected me on my vocabulary on something very, very, very interesting and very important. A lot of times we say, being like the leverage, and then the right arm is the pivot point, and it's not right. What does it mean? You're right with the whole lever action because it does have that type of feel, right? Let me for a minute, I'm gonna take off the chat so you guys can see my hands better. So when the sword is going up, I guess I should do it like this, right? When the sword is going up, your left hand is pushing forward, first of all, not down. Your left hand is pushing forward. Then it's pushing forward, but the right hand is serving as a point where the sword rolls off, right? But then from here, you see I'm not pulling. I am using my left hand to bring the sword up, and then when it's coming down, it's the same thing too, right? Like my left hand is pulling, my left hand is pulling, and my right arm is not pushing, right? It's just coming along for the ride, but it's being used to transfer the energy down, right? Down here rather than here. So it rolls off. It rolls off the hand on the way up, and on the way down, it rolls off the hand. It pivots right here, right? Pivots right here. So the sword is coming out, pivots here, and there's a Tenouchi, and the Tenouchi doesn't happen at this point. The Tenouchi is already happening as it's coming down. And at this point, it's the thing where Tenouchi has the most effect on the sword, and it's going at one speed here, but because of this, it's adding speed, and then because of this, at the end with the pivot and the wrist, it adds more speed, and that's why it accelerates all the way to the end. I said a lot. I need to make more videos about this, but I like to do this type of conversation, so maybe I'll just pick up some of these pieces, edit them out, and make a video so that information stays accessible. It's easier to find, but hope that makes sense and hope that helps you guys. So let me catch up with some of these comments. Shen, you're saying the space between the left and right hand is the lever point. Now we're getting into English that I'm not so good with. Please explain what you're trying to say. So the right arm is functioning as a point where there's a transition of energy. is rolling off. It's helping you get the angle for the sword to go up efficiently. But it's not, the main point of this is not pulling. It's not pulling. When you pull, Kota becomes vulnerable, and the transmission of the energy gets broken. Richmond, so the sword is one lever, so it's the arm itself. The fulcrum changes depending on the scenario segment of the arm. Makes sense, but I think this is the type of things that I wish we could have like a 3D model or something that we can actually all like move and kind of explain, because I feel like we'll get a better picture. But hopefully I'm trying to make it as simple as possible, guys. My English is not the most what's the word that I'm looking for? Diverse. So sometimes I'm limited to some of the words that I'm saying. So I want to make sure that I'm being understood. So I'm gonna try to keep it as simple as possible. When you're raising the hands and when you're bringing the hands, the right arm should not apply force. Period. Hopefully that makes sense. I feel like now I'm going in circles just because I don't feel like I'm expressing my English correctly. Okay. So Richmond, what I'm saying is correct, you believe. Awesome, cool. And Richmond, I don't know if you're in the Discord, but if you are, thank you. And if you're not, you should join us because I like the way you talk. The link is right here if you want to join it up. We're there. We're a community of people that like Japan, like Japanese stuff, like Japanese food, like Kendo. I like to talk about Kendo a lot. So, and what I'm thinking of doing is getting a section on the Discord and kind of like having topics that you guys want me to kind of research and discuss on the stream. I really like, Shen, that you pull up that question and it gave me something to talk about today, because actually I was thinking about it yesterday as after I read it, and today when I was doing kata at the dojo, I noticed at some point where after I finished the kata, I was back in kamae and I didn't see it. I felt that my right arm was more like, you see, more like being fist, more like a fist here rather than, like a good sword grip. Was more like this, and I was like, why am I doing this? Like, you came to mind in that sense of like, I want to make sure that let me explain it, let me relax it, let me give a good picture on it, and it made me very conscious about it. Aisha, welcome to the stream. Thank you very much for passing by. I really appreciate you being here. Hopefully you get to cut on some of this good stuff we're talking about. Now today, guys, I wanted to talk a little bit. I know everybody here loves kata, right? You guys love kata. Oh wait, George, what are you saying? What are you saying? The whole thing with my hand that I tense up on my kamae, that I tense up on top of the shinai. You caught on to that? I noticed that on my kendo as well a couple times before, and I'm like, whoa, stop that. Bad hand. You need to relax. And I think it starts happening. I think for me, it starts happening when I am thinking too much of like the motions, right? Because I was thinking on the kamae, not on the kamae, I was thinking on like the kata motions and like every little thing, little aspect. And I started feeling myself that I was stiffening up. And then when I saw my hand, I was like, oh, I'm stiff. So immediately I took a moment, so okay, no, go back to your kamae. So it's not necessarily a big problem, but it's definitely a bad habit that I want to make sure that I break out of. I think it happens like that when I'm starting to get tense up, when I'm thinking too much. That's, I think, when it happens to me a lot. Because I don't notice it that much on myself when I am, like I'm going for it. Like that definitely doesn't happen when I'm doing kakaregeko. Tell you that much. So you saying that you try to break down that kind of make a bit aggressive when you push in. Explain, please. I'm confused. I'm Confucius. It kind of makes a bit aggressive when you push in. Oh, you mean like maybe like if I'm trying to. That makes sense too, right? Like if I'm trying to kind of like stand my ground and push somebody back. Is that what you mean? Like somebody comes in to myself and like I push back. Would that be um would there be a moment that you think that you saw that? And guys, this is what I love about this, guys. Like I got to practice with George. Was it like what, like about a month ago? Maybe a little bit more, and no, definitely a little bit more. But I like the fact that he's able to to bring up all this stuff and we can discuss it. And I'm definitely going to be way more aware of that as I keep going with my practice. I will. You know what? I guess I won't see you guys next week, but I'm definitely writing it down. I'm definitely writing down on my log on for my practice. But I'm gonna write this down so I can be aware of it during my trip in Greece, and I'll give you guys feedback as I come back. Anyways, guys, I don't want to keep you guys too long. Again, just because I want to make sure that I have something good to say every time that I'm here on stream. Also because I was kind of a little bit unprepared coming in because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to stream. But I do want to talk a little bit about Kendo Kata and its application, or what are some of the things that we can learn doing kata that we can transfer into Jigeiko. Okay, so let me get the video real quick. Let me get this, and at some point we can actually go over also all the different details on the different aspects on techniques and so on. Richmond, any questions? Come on, you can. Don't be limited. You don't have a limit on questions. So yes, you can ask. That's what I'm saying. I'm not leaving yet. I'm playing another video. Okay. Okay. I'm sure. While you ask that question, Richmond, I'm sure many of you have seen this compilation of videos. I think they are the go-to when we are studying kata. What I like about this one is they break it down into different details. But I wanted to take the time to kind of also bring up some of the things that most people mess up on this, or like some of the details that we tend to overlook. So yeah, let's just watch it. When was this video made? Like this intro is like so dramatic. Okay. Okay, let me just pay full attention to Richmond's question. Left foot, when pressing off, is it more of a roll forward from the ball of the foot or straight out of the planted ball of the foot? Let me just make sure that I'm having a little bit of hard time understanding what specifically the question is, but I do want to say this on the motion, and I'm wearing black clothes, so it's kind of hard to see. But see if I can go up here. Okay, so you see the Nike. Okay, so guys, this is my leg, right? A lot of times people focus on having the calf being the one that pushes off. And let me see if I can, hold on guys, let me see if I can improvise here a connection. Okay. You see? Is it connected? Come on, computer, you can do it. Oh, it's not going to do it because I have a new network, right? But if I plug it on the USB, okay. Yeah, this is. I wanna see if I can. I don't think I'm gonna be able to show you guys this because I'm in a different network right now because of my internet issues. But sorry, I'll try to do my best over here. So, a lot of people think that it's the calf that you're gonna use to move forward. I don't agree with that. I use my whole leg when I'm moving forward. I try to move my hip forward using my whole leg. So I remember a sensei one time told me that it's kind of like skateboarding, but I feel that skateboarding is a little bit different because when you skateboard, you use more of like only this part of your leg, right? Where here I'm pushing from the ball of my foot, and I am pushing to get my hip forward with my left leg. So I'm not allowing the foot to do this because when you say roll off, I was wondering if that's what you meant, that I'm not allowing my foot to do this. It's more of I'm kicking the ground to go forward, right? Hope that makes sense. I do have if you look into my channel, I have a video that's called Fumikiri. That's about Fumikiri, and I talk a little bit about that there. So I like if you go into my channel, you will see it. I'll be making more. I'll be like readdressing a lot of these issues when I have a better setup and when everything is working correctly. Also, my dog is like right there, so that's what you guys see. That I have like towels and stuff like here, so that way he can get in there and not make a mess. But yeah, if you want to go check out the video for Mikiri, if you go to the Discord, if you have any questions, maybe we can jump into a video call. We can talk about it. Yeah, that will work too. George, you said yesterday they told you that when you push and you're trying to get an opening, you do kind of a catwalk as your left leg disengages, making you not ready for any opportunity that may come that may come in. So that's a good point. So one thing that I always try to be conscious is that the left leg, when it pushes, right, like it pushes, the right foot makes contact, and then the left foot kicks off the floor and then kicks again down to kind of keep you. I'm exaggerating the motion too, right? Like, but it should be a sharp motion forward. And Richmond, I wouldn't call it a roll. I would call it more of a push off the floor because it pushes and then it kicks down to kick back up every single time to be ready to make sure that you're good to go immediately. That video, Steven, yeah, that video has a feel from the 80s, but it's like the 80s from Japan, which is like the 70s here, man. Because I don't know, that video looks cool though. It looks cool, but it's definitely interesting. So.
Series of exercises which brings together the techniques of Kendall, in which bamboo swords are used, and of sword fighting using real swords. The Kendo Kata is performed by the uchidachi, who initiates the action, and by the shidachi, whose role it is to follow. There are 7 stroke.
Take care, Richmond. Have a good one. We're here anytime.
Stroke forms of the short sword, or kodachi. Each stroke form is designed so that the shidachi wins by employing the technique of sensen no sen, or gono sen, against an attack from the uchidachi. Sensen no sen anticipates, while gono sen responds, but both are faster than the attack. Practicing the stroke forms of the Kendo Kata develops correct kendo techniques, through the study of etiquette and techniques.
I'm going to say this, and this is something that I was talking about because I did kata today at the dojo, and I was talking about this through this specific element is that sense of anticipation, and I feel that kata helps a lot with that because I think it's an element that we need to transition into our jigeko, looking at our opponents. And you see in kata, you're supposed to move together, right? But obviously, one person has to initiate the motion. But when you see high level kata being performed, it looks like they're both moving in unison, right? So that's the type of thing that I feel it's so important to learn from kata because you're not overwhelmed by the fact that you may get scored on, right? So I think it's a good way to simplify this element, to learn it, and to apply it further into Keiko.
Let's view each stroke form of Nihon Kendo Kata. The Uchidachi leads the way to the Zare position prior to Tachiai. Zare should ideally be performed in the center of the Shimoza.
Oh, they're all fancy with this, huh?
Both hands on the floor when performing Zare. After Zare, the Uchidachi proceeds straight to the Tachiai position. The Shidachi proceeds to the Tachiai position after leaving the Kodachi at the edge of the practice area. Once in the Tachiai position, they perform Rei to the Kamiza, and then exchange Rei with each other. They insert their swords in the waistband on their left hips with their left thumbs on the tsuba. Using Ayumiyashi, each takes 3 steps forward, leading with the right foot. They draw swords and take the Sonkyo position with the Kensen crossing. They stand up and assume the Ai-Chudan posture. Lowering the Kensen, they step backwards to the Tachiai position. Using Ayumiyashi and leading with the left foot, they take 5 small steps. Then assume Chudan no Kamae.
5 small steps, not 5 regular steps.
The first form of the Tachi stroke.
Something I feel that a lot of people get
Both approach in the
wrong.
Ai-Chudan posture. The Shidachi parries a frontal bend strike and counters with a frontal bend strike in return. Then adopts Zanshin in the Hidari Jodan posture.
This spot right here, that moment right there, I feel that a lot of people kind of misses. Let me go back a little bit. So George, you're saying that that's something that you always mention to your kohai when done correctly will help you on how to improve your wasa, especially on timing and movement. Yeah, totally. Especially this one, this kata right here, I think is very good on understanding how to move yourself back while also engaging to go forward. On point. Yeah. So I feel that in this kata, a lot of times, hold on, where is it? Okay, at this point,
Steps back.
so, not a little bit back. Hold on, because this is so tiny.
Gohonme.
Oh, wait, what?
Stroke 4.
No.
Then exchange backwards to the Tachiai. Nihonme.
Oh my God.
The Shidachi parry.
Okay, right here. At this point, right after the Uchidachi takes the first step back. So if you notice here, what's going to happen is that Shidachi is going to pressure the Uchidachi to move back. I feel like a lot of times this little detail, people kind of get, or like oversee this, and they just start moving back, or they just go straight up to Jodan. But if you see, from here, look, starts moving forward, and then he goes up.
Turn. Then adopt Zanshin in the Hidari Jodan posture.
I think kata is also very good at helping people anticipate
Nihonme.
the
Second
distance
stroke
of a
form.
step as well, right?
Both approach in the Aichudan posture. The shidachi parries a kote strike and counters with a kote strike. Then adopt zanshin with kigurai.
Kata 3, I think, is a good example of anticipating the length of the step, especially when they're going back to center.
Sanhonme. The third stroke form. Both approach in the Aigedan posture. The uchidachi's tsuki thrust from the chudan position is parried and countered with a tsuki thrust in return. The shidachi proceeds to kuraizume and adopts zanshin.
Like right here as they go back. Right? A shidashi has to anticipate how far that person is going to move so they don't move too far out or they don't end up close, right?
Yonhonme. The fourth stroke form. The shidachi adopts the wakigamaya posture in response to hasso. The swords are brought in an overhead sweep and crossed. The shidachi's tsuki thrust from the chudan position is parried.
So this is, I think, like a big point that I see people arguing on this kata. Right at the moment of the strike of
The shidachi
waki and hasso,
wakigamaya posture in response to
who has to go back, who goes back, how far they go back, and so on, right?
tsuki thrust.
But here, they ended up at a very good position. So when they finish, they don't have to move back, right? Neither. Because I see a lot of times people say, oh, both of them, they have to move back. For what I was told, the way I've been taught, is that if someone needs to go back, it's going to be uchidachi. Oh, I have the mouse on the other screen, sorry. It has to be uchidachi. But not both, and not shidashi. Right? Shidashi is anticipating
Kigurai.
the technique.
Gohonme.
For some reason, this is one of my favorite ones.
The shidachi approaches in the chudan posture in response to jodan. He parries with an upward sliding motion and counters with a frontal men strike, then steps back and adopts zanshin. Both take 3 steps back to the original position in the I chudan posture. Ropponme, the sixth stroke form. The shidachi approaches in the gedan posture in response to chudan, raises his sword to chudan, parries a kote strike with a small upward sliding motion, and counters with a small kote strike. Then adopts zanshin.
I think this one is one of the most. I think this one is also one of the ones that I like the most, especially because I feel that the suriage is very similar to how you would do in keiko, right?
Form. Both approach in the I chudan posture. The shidachi checks its
Okay, this is also a thing that something that people tend to make a mistake is this Tsuki right here, and a lot of times I see people not knowing which way do they have to twist the sword to, right? So uchidachi goes for the Tsuki, and then shidashi deflects the Tsuki. It's not both of them going for Tsuki. No. One of them is attacking, the other one is deflecting. So it's actually the shidashi has to do the opposite that he does on kata 3, right? And then
avoiding a frontal men strike from the chudan posture, passes to the side and delivers a strike to the right door. Then adopts chudan.
one of the biggest problem,
Sword to
okay,
chudan, parries a
with kata 7, I feel, is that
seventh stroke form.
keeping your eyes, as the shidashi, keeping your eyes
Shidachi checks its ski
on your
thrust.
opponent, right, as you're going through.
Frontal men strike from the chudan posture, passes
See,
to
he
the
never
side
took off the
and
eyes
delivers a strike to the
away
right
from
door. Then adopts
the opponent.
zanshin in the wakigamaya posture.
Also, going back to center here, for some reason, people find this very tricky, but you just have to make sure that your partner is doing the right thing. Here, Uchidachi is taking longer steps because the center, I wish they had like some markings. Maybe I should make an edit with some markings for this video. Hold on.
The 7th
Ah, I went too far out. Sorry.
delivers a
So
strike to the right.
let's see.
Oh, then adopts Zanshi.
Okay, so he came up, and this guy's end position is going to be here. So he has to go very short distance, but this guy has to go all the way around here, right? So this guy has to do longer steps,
Wakigamae posture.
right? And I feel like this one is also becomes problematic for people.
Both adopt the Sonkyo posture, sheathe their swords, return to the Tachiai position, and perform Ritsure. The Shidachi steps back and
Okay.
exchanges his
I don't want to overwhelm you too much with kata. Like, I maybe for the next one I'll do the other last three, and we're going to like a lot more details and so on. But I wanted to touch into this and kind of talk a little bit about this because I think kata tends to be overlooked a lot. But also at the same time, I don't think we practice kata for those higher level elements, right? People, I mean, in my experience, I see that people practice it when they're getting ready for test. I'm practicing because I'm getting ready for test too, right? But even though when we practice them, we don't talk about those high level elements that get involved and you can transfer into your kendo. George, so you're saying you've been trying to prove your suriage to keep your sword in front of your uchidachi. So it's always involved in the wasan, keeping the tip of my sword engaged. So I think, are you referring during kata or are you referring during bogu practice? Because I think when you talk about bogu practice, I don't think you call the other person uchidachi, right? Like you call him aite, right? There's another name, kakarite, motodachi, right? So I don't know. Just wondering, just out of curiosity. Not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying. I'm just trying to figure out. But yeah, I mean, like I really like suriage. And one of the things that I keep in mind with suriage again is like keeping the tip in the center. So even when I go and flick the sword out of center, I try to keep my tip there, so I'm making it in one motion. But ideally for practice with suriage, you want to make sure that the suriage and the waza, it's one motion, as if you're doing just a regular cut, right? Because as a matter of fact, you could even do suriage kind of like in the opposite way, and it's kind of more like that, right? Like you're sweeping on the same side and coming down for men, maybe in that case, and it's more of a like the same motion you do for attack. I feel that a lot of times when people miss their suriage is because they're doing it like nidan waza, but then they're doing the footwork like nidan waza, and they're freezing the sword, and they end up being too close because they took 2 steps. So I think that you could do suriage as nidan waza, but the first step cannot go in too deep. And I feel that it becomes more effective to do suriage if you do it as 1 waza instead of 2 waza, right? Like, but I don't know. That's how it works for me. Let me know how that goes for you, George. I'm very happy that you're here. I haven't talked to you for a while. We should hop on a call at some point. And I want to go back to Atlanta and practice with you again soon. Thankfully now I am more familiar with the schedules and so on, so I know who to call, or like you can help me to organize in which dojos I'm going to go. But I know I have to get there a little bit earlier, right? Because I didn't get to practice in one of the dojos last time I went, so I want to make sure that I get to practice with everybody. Guys, I don't want to overwhelm you with a lot of this stuff. I don't want to keep you here so much. I hope you had a good time. I hope you answered some of your questions. Please join the Discord so that way we can talk about this stuff. I want to get some ideas on what would you like me to do for you here. The live streams are literally for you guys, and they're a way to keep me motivated on learning more, researching, and doing some more. But I want to do a lot more on that. So having you guys talking to me and asking questions that I can later on bring up here, I think it's very useful, because a lot of all this stuff, if you have this question, I know a lot more people out there have these questions, and my goal is to help make Kendo better and stronger, especially on this side of the world. Hope that makes sense. Guys, thank you very much for passing by. I really appreciate everybody here. Hold on, George. You're saying there's not much strength at the last quarter of the shiai. It's easier to apply suriage there. Yeah. So when you do suriage, hold on, I have a little piece. For me, for suriage or for any waza, there's a sweet spot, right? Like, so if you do suriage at the tip, it's really hard to get it out of the way in time for you to come in and the person not to return to the center, right? Because like here, they can bring it back to center. If you do too deep, it's really hard to move it. But if you get a good strength, if you manage to transfer the energy at the sweet spot, which for me, it's more towards the middle, right? Like you can make a bigger opening, and it's not enough time for the person to kind of return before it's too late that they cannot get tangled within this motion. But yeah, I you know what I should do? I should make a live based on all this stuff. But guys, anyways, thank you very much for passing by. I really appreciate you. Please pass by the Discord if you haven't already. Please hit the like button so this video gets pushed out to more people. And come join us in the Discord. Come ask some questions. Have a good time. And overall, let's try to make Kendo better. Okay? Thank you very much, guys. You have a good rest of your week.